enjoy the way that last week's theme on responsibility fit right into the readings that we read of Jim Stovall, and I thank all of you for giving me those comments. Well, let me go in a different direction now. As I read all of this last week, the Jim Stovall taking control of your life and these things and teaching you how to face your responsibility, I started doing a lot of thinking about what is the difference between responsibility and accountability. And that is a very interesting thing. And I had, I think, 15 different people that I posed that question to them. Intelligent people, doctors, lawyers, business associates, people that I run into, just a lot of people whose opinions I respect, including Jim Stovall. Well, let me tell you, across the board, everyone's answer was very good. Very good. And then I asked them this question. If you were talking to someone who came from a home life where they were never raised in a way that they were shown how to deal with responsibility, how to accept responsibility, if their upbringing had never given them anything about responsibility. And I loved it last week, Donna, when you talked about, your earliest thing was the piano lessons that you took, and that how you felt when you did your practice and how you felt when you didn't, and making the bed, and helping in the kitchen. These are really fundamental things. But when I had these conversations with very, very intelligent people that I greatly respect about responsibility, I asked all of them, but what if you're describing what responsibility is and what accountability is to someone that doesn't have a clue what either one of them mean? It might be a different way to start the conversation. And so each one of the people that I had this conversation with listened to me, and I'd like to share my take on responsibility versus accountability. And kind of here's how it started. Responsibility is doing the things that you should be doing. One of the people that I spoke with said that you're supposed to be doing. In other words, responsibility is involved in things that you should be doing. Now, what does it mean, things that you should be doing? Things that in proper living you need to do. You need to have good hygiene. You need to brush your teeth. You need to do things like that. You need to be very involved in making sure that you work regularly so that you can feed your family. Responsibility. You need to make sure that you don't drink more than a certain amount so that you're not unsafe when you're driving your car. Responsibility. But responsibility is about doing things that you should be doing. The correct things, the right things, the proper things. Not things that are wrong, not things that are going to cause harm or danger or hurt to other people. And where do you get your guidance from? What are the things that we should be doing that are the good, proper things? You get it from the Bible, from the Lord's Word. That's the best place you can go. And there's many other places you can go also, but that's what I'm talking about. Responsibility in life is doing things that you should be doing that are good, proper things. Now, responsibility is in the present. You need to be doing these things now. And once you start doing these things and you accept that you should be doing things, and that's what the shows have been about. That's what Miziel and the first two shows were about. And then we got into persevering, where when you start accepting responsibility, but all of a sudden it gets hard and circumstances make it so that it's not so easy to continue doing the things that you're supposed to, don't quit. And that's perseverance and believing that you can work through this and that it's just temporary, but keep doing it. Maintain that discipline. And Donna, you talked about it last week too, you said, sometimes you might not feel like doing the things that you're responsible for. You talked about that. So we're trying to lay some foundation here on why and what it is that responsibility is all about. But once you start doing responsibility, keep doing it. So responsibility is a present situation and it moves into a future situation. Now, accountability starts in the present But when your responsibilities are not handled properly, it becomes a thing of the past that you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And so accountability starts in the present, but it becomes something of the past. But when it becomes something of the past, accountability basically means that you may have someone point a finger in your direction and say, you're the cause, you are to blame. And that if you're the cause or you're to blame for some responsibility that should have been taken care of, but didn't get taken care of, then there could be consequences. There could be a price to pay. And so we have to think about accountability. Now, I found one little definition here, not so much a definition, but let me read this. What is accountability? The word accountability means to be held accountable, liable, answerable, or to be held responsible for what a person has been given. Now, there's a lot of biblical lessons on responsibility, and the best one that comes to mind is the lesson of the talents, where one person's given 5, I think, and one person's given 2, and one person's given 1. I don't know the exact numbers, but the person was given 5 doubles his, the person was given 2 doubled his, and the person that was given 1, he was afraid to lose his, so he buried it. And then when the master came back and wanted them to turn him over, the man that had done 5, he doubled his. So he was given more responsibilities. He was given more talents to go to work with. The man that had doubled his with 2 to 4, or whatever it was, 2 to 4, I think, same thing. But the man that had been given 1 that didn't do anything with it, he was chastised, and he was told that he had not done good, because his intentions were good. But master, I didn't want to lose what you gave me. But the master said, but you didn't do anything with it either. You didn't do anything with what you've been given. And then there's some scripture that I think is been out there for a very, very long time that relates to when those that are given much are going to have much, and those that are given little will have little. And what it's basically saying is, those that I entrust much with are expected to do much, and those that have little, they're not going to probably do much with it. I might come across the exact reading of that in a moment if I can. I think that'll be helpful. But what I'm trying to get at is that accountability has a lot to do with people being able to trust someone that they're going to be able to do what they say they're going to do. And being held accountable means that somebody has taken responsibility, and if it doesn't turn out the way it's supposed to, they might be challenged to have to be brought forth to explain themselves and have to pay some kind of price. I came up with an example that every one of the 15 people that I discussed this with told me that that's a perfect example. So let me throw it at you, and then you decide for yourself if you think it's as good an example as what I think it is, where I describe responsibility and accountability. John Doe works for Acme Cement Company, and he's a vice president. Acme Cement Company has a large contract with the state to build bridges. John Doe's responsibility, one of his job duties, is to purchase the cement for the bridge project. When he starts negotiating with his suppliers, his vendors, he realizes that if he buys an inferior grade of cement, he can make an awful lot of money for his company. And so he makes the decision. He makes the choice. That's all part of responsibility. It's a choice. He makes the decision to buy the inferior grade of cement, and he makes his company an awful lot of money. The inferior cement does not meet the engineering specifications. 3 years later, the bridge that had inferior cement collapsed and 30 people died. John Doe, that made the decision when he was responsible to buy the cement, he is going to be held accountable. He is going to be liable. He'll probably have to go before the courts and be convicted of a fraud that he perpetuated there. But the point is, he caused harm, injury to people, and he was accountable. And so, accountability really comes up in the business world all the time. And I found an article in Inc. magazine that was published September 14th, 2017 by Gordon Treadgold, founder and CEO, Leadership Principles. It's called 7 Truths About Accountability That You Need to Know. Accountability doesn't happen just by chance. It has to be implemented. Now, let me tell you something here. A lot of people that are listening to these shows are particularly interested in going into business for themselves. And one of the things that I've said many times in my training of people is if you're going to go into business for yourself, you should start as an employee somewhere, get experience doing under somebody else's business the responsibilities that you're going to have to do when you own your own business, and that you should become the world's greatest employee. I said that earlier in the show. You should become the world's greatest employee so that when you yourself are the boss and you've got employees working for you, you'll know how to manage them. But if you're not a good employee, how can you expect to ever manage someone else? And being able to understand what accountability is a key ingredient of a successful business. Let me read you what these things are, because I think it'll help everybody as they move toward thinking about business. But also, remember this. My whole program is taking the fundamentals of successful businesses and bringing them back into your personal life, the way that you handle your finances, the way you make decisions, the way that you budget things. And so I teach the fundamental best practices of business as it relates to your own life. And I tell everybody, remember this. This is America, land of the free, home of the brave. And that in America, we have freedom to do whatever we want to do. As long as it's not breaking laws and it's honest and it doesn't hurt other people, of course. But here's what I'm saying. In America, we have the ability to do whatever we want to do. And so I want you to think that if you take a job and you're a W-2 employee, that you're an employee for anybody, you really are self-employed, but you just chose to sell your time, and the method that they pay you is in a paycheck, and they give you a W-2, which is good because it helps you without having to have any higher payroll taxes. It's twice as much if you're self-employed. If you're employed in a company, they pay half your Social Security taxes. If you're self-employed, you pay both halves. So instead of being 7.65% taken out of your pay, you're going to have to pay 15.3% if you're self-employed. So it costs you more to be self-employed. So keep that in mind. But what I said, the concept is that here in America, if you're an employee for someone, don't look at yourself as an employee. Look at yourself that you are responsible for your life, for yourself, for your family, and that you chose to sell your services for whatever that job is that they hired you for to a company. But you have the freedom to quit that job and go do something else if you want to. So just remember this. When it comes right down to it, each one of us is a self-employed person that's responsible for ourselves. And when I was in West Virginia, Department of Corrections, Charleston Correctional Center, twice, the warden there, he told me what he loves about my programs is that I teach responsibility and accountability. So these words are not just words that we're just throwing out there because we want to do a show and fill some time here. No, these are fundamental things that each one of us needs to incorporate into our lives in a moral way and in a physical way, because we have responsibilities to make this world a better place, to take care of our families, to do for others. Now, let me give you these highlights on the 7 truths about accountability that you need to know by Gordon Treadgold. Having worked with hundreds of businesses, senior executives, and management teams, one topic that is always difficult to broach is accountability. Many people don't understand what accountability is, why it's important, or where it starts. Yet they understand accountability is important, but don't know how to create a culture of accountability. They just hope it will happen. Try to listen to this in how you raise your children, how you set an atmosphere in your home where you give responsibility to people and then you follow up. So let me start here. But hope is not a strategy. Here are 7 truths about accountability, which will help you better understand and increase accountability levels in your organization. 1, accountability starts with you. Leadership defines culture. And if you want to create a culture of accountability, then it starts with you. You need to model the behaviors that you want to see in your organization. If I say organization, substitute the word family. If you want people to take ownership